After my mother-in-law humiliated me at her birthday party, my husband and I cut her off financially, but then she did this. So my mother-in-law Sharon has never been my biggest fan. Honestly, I don't get why. Maybe in her eyes, no one's ever good enough for her precious son. She definitely wasn't thrilled when he chose me despite her disapproval. We've been together for 3 years now, and we tied the knot a year ago. In the beginning, my husband and I really tried to win her over, but she always acted like she was too good to give me a chance. She treated me like I was invisible, or worse, like I was some kind of intruder. The only reason we even bothered visiting before getting married was because my father-in-law was seriously ill. He was a good man, and we wanted to spend as much time with him as possible before he passed away. Sadly, he passed 3 months after our wedding. He'd been sick for a while, so at least he got to see his son get married. After he passed, we really cut back on visiting Sharon. It was painfully clear she didn't like me, and even on our wedding day, all she did was sulk. So, we decided to keep our distance. My husband stayed in touch, mostly because his dad left everything to him, and only the house to Sharon. She had been a stay-at-home mom, so she didn't have any money of her own. My husband sends her money every month to help her maintain her lifestyle. To avoid hurting her feelings, he told her the money came with the condition that he had to take care of her, even though that wasn't true. We never really figured out why my father-in-law didn't leave her money, but their relationship seemed more like tolerance than love by the time I met them. Fast forward to last week, my husband was away on a business trip, and out of the blue, I got an invite to Sharon's birthday party. That was a first. Usually my husband gets the invite, and I'm just the optional +1. This time the invitation was addressed to me. I was confused, so I talked to my husband, and he had gotten an invite too, but way earlier. It felt like an afterthought inviting me. He had already told Sharon he couldn't make it because of his work trip, but he said I could go if I wanted. He suggested I call Sharon to find out what was going on, so I did. When I called her, she claimed she wanted to make amends. She admitted she hadn't treated me well and said she wanted to fix things. She realized that if her son loved me, she should be respectful of that and give me a real chance. To be honest, I was skeptical, given our rocky past. But on the phone, she sounded sincere, saying she'd talked to her friends, and they convinced her she needed to be a better mother-in-law. So she invited me to her birthday party to bond and make up. Against my better judgment, I decided to go. It was a huge mistake. The next evening, I got dressed up for the party. When I arrived, I expected Sharon to greet me, but instead, she had hired a doorman. Right in front of me, he checked the guest list and told me my name wasn't on it. I was shocked. I even showed him the invitation on my phone, but he said it wasn't the real deal and someone must have tricked me. That should have been my cue to leave, but I really wanted to give Sharon a chance. So I called her, explaining what was happening. She came out with a bunch of her friends a few minutes later. So my friends and I totally thought Sharon was going to tell the doorman that I was a last-minute addition and let me in. But nope, instead of doing that, she started yelling at the security staff to throw me out, claiming she didn't even know who I was. Her friends, who were behind her, were barely holding back their giggles. So I quickly realized this whole thing was pre-planned. Sharon was super into our role and kept shouting about how she didn't want any gatecrashers at her exclusive party, which was only for her close family and friends. She made some really nasty comments about how she couldn't let just any filth into her house. And I ended up walking back to my car in tears before the security even had to step in. I was crying so hard that I couldn't say anything to her. I drove a few miles away from her house, completely broke down in my car, and called my husband. He listened to me patiently, promised he'd cut his business trip short and come home early to be there for me. It was such a humiliating experience, and I could tell he was really upset with Sharon, but he focused on comforting me instead of letting his anger show. I had no idea what was about to happen next. Anyway, I went home that day, blocked Sharon everywhere I could think of, and vowed never to speak to her again. The next day, the first thing I did was call my husband. He said he'd be back the day after, but while I was on the phone, someone started shrieking outside my door. When I checked, it was Sharon. No surprise there. She was screaming about taking us to court and making sure we paid up. I was confused, but luckily my husband was still on the phone, and he explained everything. The night before, he had sent her a message saying that since she couldn't respect him or his wife, she had no business taking money from us. He told her the truth that her husband hadn't left her anything and all the money went to him. Sharon clearly hadn't realized this and thought her husband had left instructions for her son to take care of her for the rest of her life. So she showed up at my door, yelling about getting the money she was owed. My husband told me to call the cops, so that's what I did. They escorted her off the property, but I didn't press charges. I felt pretty pleased because it seemed like karma for how she'd treated me. She had humiliated me, and now she'd have to fend for herself, especially since she didn't have a nigh money and had expected her husband to leave her something. At the time, I didn't think we were doing anything wrong, and even when my husband got back, we were fine with our decision to cut off her funds and keep her out of our lives. But then, a couple of days later, she sent us an email saying she was really sorry and needed our help to survive because she had nothing and was counting on our kindness. I could tell she was trying to butter us up, and it didn't seem sincere. Now, I'm having mixed feelings about the whole thing. I haven't even talked to my husband about it yet, so I don't know what he's thinking. It's just a confusing situation, especially because I am someone who believes in giving people second chances, but this time, I'm not sure what to do. Update. Hey, so just to clarify, I've gotten a lot of comments calling me stupid for wanting to give my mother-in-law another chance. I genuinely believed she was sincere about making amends. Everyone makes mistakes, and she's not the first mother-in-law to treat her daughter-in-law badly. People can change, right? That's why I went to her party, and I do regret it now, but I didn't do anything wrong. I was the victim, not the perpetrator. I think it's unfair to hate on me for being someone who gives second chances. That's just who I am. I'm not stupid or gullible. I'm just trying to be a decent human being. Sharon really put on a good act on the phone before the party, and I had no reason to doubt her intentions at the time. So yeah, going to her party and wanting to give her another chance shows the kind of person I am. Her taking advantage of that and humiliating me shows what kind of person she is. That's all. So basically, I don't want to dive into that whole mess again, but I just needed to set the record straight before more people start throwing shade my way. My husband and I talked things through, and yeah, we regret what went down at the party, but at least it showed us Sharon's true colors. Not that we ever thought she was a great person, but now it's super obvious. We also chatted about that email she sent us, and it turns out we both felt really guilty about it at first. But after talking it over, we realized she was just reaching out because she needed cash to keep up her lifestyle, not because she was actually sorry. She can act like she sees us as her kids all she wants, but the truth is she just has no one else to rely on. We were basically her ATM. But after figuring this out, we stopped feeling bad for her. Even though she didn't get any money from my father-in-law's will, she definitely has some cash her husband transferred before he passed. The lawyer who managed the will hinted at this. Plus, she has a bunch of valuable stuff she could sell if she really needed to. Worst case, she could ask her family for help. So, we don't feel the need to support her anymore, especially after she treated us so poorly. She just doesn't want to spend her own money. That's been her MO, her whole life playing the helpless damsel so we'd feel sorry and keep sending money even when she was awful to us. She had us fooled for a while, but not anymore. She's skilled at manipulation, but we're wise to her tricks now. It's been a week since she emailed us and we haven't replied. We're not planning to either. We're done with her drama. If she cuts back on her extravagant lifestyle, she can manage with the money she has. We're done feeling sorry for her when she was never really helpless. Honestly, I'm just relieved I don't have to deal with her anymore. It's been tough hating her, but knowing I had to put up with her because of my husband. But now that he's done with her too, things feel much better. He was never a mama's boy, but like anyone, he wanted to take care of his parents. Sharon blew it by being so difficult. She could have had an easy life if she had just been nice, but some people just can't get out of their own way. Update. So it's been 2 weeks since that email. Sharon stayed quiet for a while but showed up at our house last night while we were having dinner. At first, I was ready to call the cops again, but she wasn't yelling this time. She was crying on our doorstep, and we were really confused about what to do. It could have been another manipulation attempt, but she was genuinely sobbing, so we felt a bit torn. We decided not to let her in, but talk to her through the intercom. We told her she needed to pull herself together and leave, or we'd call the cops. She said she didn't want money, just wanted to apologize. She admitted it was probably too late, but said she realized how important family is now that she's all alone. Even her party friends have their own families, so she's feeling really lonely. She said she misses us, especially her son. And even if we don't give her money, she hopes we'd visit her sometimes. We didn't know what to say, so we stayed quiet. She admitted she hadn't been honest about the money her husband left her. But to be fair, we hadn't been totally honest with her either. She mentioned her son hadn't told her that her husband, Sharon, left her with absolutely no money, and while that might seem fair, she felt like they'd both deceived each other and let each other down. She decided it was time for honesty if they were ever going to be a happy, healthy family. So she came clean about why she did that awful thing on her birthday. Turns out, all her life, she believed no woman would ever be good enough for her son. She didn't approve of me because I was too outspoken, too bold, and too ambitious. Yep, that's me. But I never saw how that was a problem for our marriage. Anyway, that's why Sharon couldn't stand me. When she realized her opinion didn't matter because my husband was crazy about me, it made her resent me even more. She admitted that she had a lot of issues and was willing to work through them to keep a relationship with us since we were her only family. I thought it was pretty raw and real of her to admit all that, but we're still a bit cautious. After a long silence, I told her we needed some time to think and wanted some peace and quiet. She apologized one last time before leaving. My husband and I are really confused right now and have no idea what to do. Any advice would be really appreciated because we feel completely lost. We don't want to get manipulated again, but also don't want to be heartless. Honestly, we have no clue what to believe anymore. Sharon was right about one thing, though. My husband's family needs to stop lying and keeping secrets. Update 3. It's kind of ironic because in my last update, I said we needed to stop lying and keeping secrets. And guess what? We're still dealing with more secrets. Turns out the reason my father-in-law's lawyer wouldn't tell us why Dad didn't leave Sharon any money was because Dad had specifically told him not to. It wasn't official or anything, just a friendly request. With no binding document, the lawyer finally spilled the truth because we kept badgering him. Apparently, the money Sharon supposedly had wasn't from her husband, but from an affair partner, one of her old college friends. She never mentioned this while the guy was alive, but about 3 years ago, just when my husband and I started dating, her affair partner died of a heart attack. With no family of his own, he left everything to Sharon. My father-in-law found out about it much later, a couple of months before he passed away. He knew he was dying, so divorcing her would be pointless. Instead, he decided not to leave her anything except the house, and gave all his assets to his son. He left her the house so she wouldn't suspect anything and try to contest the will. Also, Sharon's tale about sacrificing a lot in her marriage was total BS. She had the option to work after giving birth to my husband, but she chose to be a stay-at-home mom. The only thing she ever sacrificed was her dignity because she always made someone else carry her weight. Knowing all this, we're glad we didn't reach out to her again. She's a liar, a cheat, and just a generally terrible person. The farther we stay from her, the better. Update 4. So Sharon tried to reach out again, even though it's been a month since we last talked. I bet it's because I recently announced my pregnancy on social media. But she pretended not to know in her email. She said she was looking forward to hearing from us, and thought we'd had enough time to decide what we wanted. Well, she was right. It didn't take long to decide. We just want her to stay away. We sent her a message saying we knew about her affair and we didn't want anything to do with her anymore. We told her that if she's alone now, it's because she deserves it. She's never valued anyone in her life and only cared about herself. So she should be grateful she gets to spend time with herself now. So the only person she really cares about is herself. Honestly, if she ever finds herself low on cash, she'll just cozy up to another guy and have an affair to get what she needs. But as of now, her son has completely cut her off. I know the message we sent was pretty harsh, but it had to be done. She's caused us enough trouble, and as we're starting this new chapter in our lives, we really need some peace. We need her to stay far, far away from us. I'm almost certain she won't take this seriously. She'll probably try to worm her way back into our lives in a couple of months, especially when I'm in the later stages of my pregnancy. But my husband and I have already talked about this. If she keeps bothering us, we're ready to just file a restraining order and hope for the best. We're also planning to move into a new house soon. We're making sure no one gives her the new address because with a baby on the way, we need a bigger space anyway. I'm really looking forward to being a mom, and I absolutely can't wait to start fresh in our new place.